Good afternoon and welcome to the XBE Thrive series. This one specifically is going to be on our service line micro, which is on sales growth, which many companies are going to need this particular type of assistance. And really the mission for the Diversity Consortium is to make a true measurable difference in the supplier diversity landscape while providing a return on investment for corporations and XBE organizations while improving the communities in which they operate. All this is to address the equity and inclusion issues of our times. We will work to ensure everyone has an opportunity for success and growth in terms of influence, and we really need that coming through. I'm joined by Jim Bell. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit about what the Diversity Consortium is about?
Yeah, Ray, thank you so much. So the Diversity Consortium is made up of 25 discrete organizations. The cumulative businesses.
There we go. Sorry, Jimmy, we lost you for a second there.
Yeah, no problem. So each of those businesses have been in business at least 10 years. We've got hundreds of staff members cumulatively, and we've serviced thousands of clients. Together, we offer 500 plus services, and we've got just a hair over $1 billion of funding available for our XBE constituents. So Ray, we're excited at the prospect of being here. So thanks for hosting us.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we look at with the Diversity Consortium is that we kind of divide our service lines into two distinct areas. And so we start talking about the upmarket offerings. This gets into more of working with our commercial side of clients. So some of the findings that we start talking about is strategy, technology, outreach, onboarding. These are things that we help our corporate clients with to be able to make sure that we're matching them up with our XBE partners that we work with in our various markets. Then we start to get over to the down market offerings, and that's more towards the XBEs very specifically. When we start talking about coaching and mentoring, training, technology, and of course today's, which is the business development function, and we start talking about really how sales support helps to bolster our XBE partners and make them much more viable in the market and really to be able to flesh out and proliferate their business. So when we start talking about what the capacity development is, that gears very specifically towards the XBE market. Okay, so basically when we start talking about how this is powered, it's powered by our service partners, and we have a number of service partners that do a great job with us to be able to bring this for you today. And the first one is the Plan Consulting Group. We also have Business Partner Blueprint, which is what we work with as well. The Collaborative Work Environment, America's SBDC, and TPCG Research. Okay, so getting to the topic that we're going to be rolling with today. So, of course, this is all about sales growth all day, every day. And so this micro, really the topic is going to go into driving new opportunities in sales growth, and we're going to flesh that out for you today. All right, a little bit of housekeeping for the webinar. Basically, what you're going to look at is your Teams dashboard on the right-hand side of your screen. Take a look at it where it says webinar and is in computer audio only. There are no dial-in numbers, so you don't have to worry about that. Really what the interaction is going to be is going into the chat room, asking any questions, and you'll see that there are some survey questions we're going to be asking a little bit later on. Ask questions at any time via the questions panel, and we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. So hopefully that gives you kind of the instructions and the way that we're going to get through this particular webinar that we're on. All right, so the first question that we'll ask as a part of the survey process is what DBE, or as we call it here, is the XBE category is your company. So if you would, please go into the chat section that I just talked about in the housekeeping, and let's get a little bit of a feel of, what type of categories that your XBE falls under.
Ray, I suspect this is the minority and what type, women, veterans, disabled, any of those categories which you might be recognized or certified. And if you'll just type them right there into the comment panel, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go through the panelists, and then you've been kind of formally introduced to us, but let's go ahead and get the parts out of the way. So my name is Raymond Tate. I have more than 25 years of experience in the industry, and really what my specialty is on the sales side. So this is very near and dear to my heart in terms of this micro webinar. And really what I'll be looking to do is to spearhead a lot of the efforts, interacting with you as XBEs and helping you to, again, proliferate your business from a sales side. Let me also introduce my colleague, Jim Bell, who's the chairman of the CWE. Jim has over 31 years of experience in sales and marketing and leadership roles within work, especially working with 50% of the Fortune 1000 companies. And Jim brings a wealth of experience, not only on the sales side, but on the operations side. And really what that does is it allows us to be able to, flesh out the opportunities and make sure that we put together a strategic plan to be able to help you with sales support.
So
Jim,
Ray,
Mhm.
just absolutely, just a little bit about the collaborative work environment. The CWE has been around since 2006 and has largely served, at least the first half of its tenure, is being a back of house data management and analytics organization, providing that service set to the consulting firms that work to go in to help organizations largely qualify, categorize, and reduce their operating costs. Over the second half of its tenure has really become focused on trying to get systems to work together, trying to get data to be more cleansed and applicable, and also trying to provide the dashboarding capabilities to organizations to see performance and how performance improves over time. We have nearly 75 clients out of the Fortune 1000, and revenues this year will be a little over $3 million.
Very good. So let's go over the agenda. And really what we're going to do is we're going to kind of incorporate the agenda that we have here into the discussion as we start to get into it. So one of the things, or really all the things that we're going to cover, fall into these particular categories. So the scope of business development, really, what does that mean when you start talking about it? And really, what's the difference between business development and sales, and really how they, kind of merge at times? We'll talk about that as we start to go through a little bit deeper. Prospecting and lead generation. How do you start that? If you're coming in and you really want to make your business go to the next level, how do you get to those, corporate clients as we start talking about it? And, how do you get names? How do you get that information? We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Then we'll talk about client and opportunity management. This is how you really start to, get into saying, what's my target clients that I'm going after, putting together a strategic plan and making sure that you're able to follow it to success. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Strategic account planning, which are the ones that you're going to be looking at. There may be initial business that's going in, but how do you flesh that out? How do you really be able to make that account work for you just as much as you work for them? So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through. And then lastly, managing a sales force. This is the part where if you don't have the expertise, number one, of being a salesperson, as many people say, the idea of being able to manage a salesperson, there's quirks that have to come into that, and really we help you to be able to get you on the right track to be able to make sure that through technology, through interaction and setting up a strong cadence, that'll help you to be able to get to managing a sales force. All right, so let's get to the next survey question here. And the question is, are you satisfied with your sales performance? And if you would, as we did a little bit earlier, if you could put it into the chat section, we'll take the information that we have here and we'll talk a little bit about it because it gives us an idea of where to be able to direct this interactive webinar. I see a couple of coming in. Very good. All right, so we'll come back to those as we get further down into it. So here's where we start talking about putting it all together. And when you start going through, and let's start at the inner circle, and really the inner circle is you. I mean, think of it almost as like it's a stadium, and then you have all these different resources around you and ways to be able to get to what your end goal is going to do. So if we start to go into the say inner circle, I say the outer inner circle is probably the better way to be able to put it. Let's start at email. Now, as we all know, we use email on a daily basis, sometimes ad nauseum as we start to go through. The thing about it is that you've got to be able to use emails to be able to get to your clients. And the thing about having that email as well is to be able to have compelling information that makes somebody say, I want to open up that email. And one of the things that we work with is to be able to make sure that you have those types of compelling stories or those catch lines that are going to make somebody on the commercial level really be able to come out and say, okay, you know what, this makes sense to me. This is the kind of partner that I would like to be able to work with. So, excuse me, as a part of the structure, we work with you all to be able to do that. One of the other key parts is we start talking about the CRM system. And so this is client relationship management. This is where realistically you look at a day-to-day basis. How are you going to be able to drive your business from a sales standpoint? If you don't have something that keeps track of your clients, your interactions, the cadence that you've had, and the follow-up, you're doing yourself a disservice. And one of the things that we work with our partners is really being able to set up a CRM environment so that you can track the day-to-day, be able to get up-to-date feedback on what's going on with your target opportunities that you're going through. Then we start talking about sales engagement. Sales engagement is huge in terms of being able to get through it. You've got to be able to have multiple touch points to be able to really get you to a point to where they're getting a familiarity with your business and having the confidence to be able to go forward with that. And that goes into sales engagement. How many different levels are you getting to them on? You need, the saying goes that you need 27 touch points before somebody's willing to make a decision in your favor in that particular case. And that's when their engagement part. So you really need to be looking into that, and we help you with that particular engagement. And then you start social media. Social media, as we know, has proliferated over the past 10 to 12 years. When you start talking about social media, what's the presence that you're putting out there? It's not that you just talking to somebody very specifically, but when you start to get into branding, it's extremely important to make sure that your social media footprint is something that people, number one, will look at as respectable, number two, would look at as effective, and then number three, to be able to make sure that it says what your business is about and it's clear and concise in that particular case. If you have those three components with it, it makes a big difference in terms of looking at what your social media footprint is out there, and of course, in relation to your prospective clients as you get through. Advertisements is another way to be able to get there. What are you putting out there on different trade organizations, that kind of things, because you just never know when people are going to get that. Again, I talked about the 27 touch points. That's a component of that, getting your name out there, getting your brand out there, and advertisements can help you to be able to get to that. And then the last part of it is marketing automation. What's the cadence that you're getting information out, whether it's advertisements, emails, those types of things. You need to make sure that you have a system to be able to get you there. And we talk a lot about that in terms of, using your CRM system to be able to get you there. And also being able to make sure that if there's going to be a person that's going to be designated to handle that function, we kind of give you the guide for that as well. Now, what you see around the outside ring is getting more into what are you trying to accomplish with all these things that we just finished talking about. So when you start talking about attracting the right customers, when you start talking about capturing information, when you start talking about engaging those customers very specifically, converting them into the sales that you want to in those particular cases. And then, of course, the last part is expanding your business. All of these things and all of these rings that you start to see that come into this is an accurate way to be able to look at it and say, how am I going to proliferate my business? And this is really the way that you want to go with it. All right, so then the other part gets into the sales support strategy. So as you see the icons on the screen here, really these are the components that you should be looking at to be able to get you to, as I keep on coming back to, proliferating your business and getting to where you want to go to. We talked a little about the CRM sales before. This is a huge part in terms of growing your business, having all that information in one spot and then being able to look at what the progression is to be able to get those types of metrics. That's a big part of it there. Social media, we talked about before. It's incredibly important to say what your brand's going to be and make sure that it's concise so that when people are looking to be able to interact with you and engage with you in terms of your business, your brand's a strong one and they'll remember it. Forms, these are certain things that you're going to be able to really be able to come and give you information back to people, whether it's, when you start talking about what type of engagements, how they're going to get to you, if there's RFPs involved, those types of things. Again, making business easy, having the proper forms in place and making sure that it's concise and it's efficient is a good way to be able to get there. certain landing pages that we have on there. Chatbot is a way to be able to go through and get survey information that you have coming back. I'll go down to analytics. Analytics is a huge part in terms of the sales support process. If you don't know where you're trying to go and how to be able to get there and to be able to track that in an efficient manner, what are you really doing at that point? And so when you start using analytics, it tells you, okay, I have an email that I was sending out with an attachment, and this got an open rate that was really strong. Let's say it was 12, 15%. That's a great open rate. But the thing about it is that you don't know that unless analytics come out. If you keep on sending out information and it's not something that's compelling to your end customer that you're trying to get to, it just doesn't really make sense, and you won't know that unless you have analytics to be able to back it up. We start talking about things like automation. Again, CRM systems can help you with that. Emails, campaigns. Campaigns is one I want to touch on really quick. When you start getting into that, you can set up campaigns that would say, I need to go at a certain time, and there's Google Analytics that can tell you the best time to be able to send out. What I mean by campaigns, email campaigns in this particular case, to be able to say, okay, there's a certain time of year that you think this is going to resonate a little bit more than anything else. We have something to where, we're looking at sending out compelling stories. If there's something very specific to you as an XBE and what your business says, we need to make sure we get it on a certain cadence to be able to get it out there, and campaigns will allow us to do that. The other thing that campaigns do is it allows us, again, going back to the analytics part, is to be able to give us information. What was effective? We can see this campaign worked well, this campaign may not have. But the point of it is that it gives you information, and that helps you to empower your business. The other thing we start talking about is sales optimizers. These are things we start to use analytics to our favor to be able to make sure that we're getting ourselves in the best place to be able to optimize what the sales. And there's certain functions that we have within our plan to be able to help you with this. Ads, we talked about it before, and then lead scoring. This gets more into getting into the profile of who you're trying to touch. So let's say, for example, if there's a CEO that you're trying to get to, you sent out information. The great thing about analytics and using CRM-based systems is that you can see what they interact with. If they're going to your website, there's a scoring system that can be attached to them that can say, okay, they're raising interest, those types of things. Why wouldn't you want information that told you that that person was taking in your information and actually interacting with it? That's what lead scoring can help you with. All right, so this would be the next question, and this is a big one. Do you have a CRM system? And as before, if you can put your comments into the chat section to your right, we'd appreciate that. This is important. I mean, when you start talking about CRM systems, we've gone into this a number of times during the webinar, but we can help you on the other side. So really curious about your information on this one.
Yeah, and Ray, I think for yeses, if you'd put the system, the CRM that you have, and if no, of course, no is fine, but the client relationship management system, it'd be interesting to see what the population is using.
Absolutely. All right, we will come back to that one. So let me talk a little bit about the Thrive series, and this is obviously a part of it in terms of the micros, but we have what I'll call the super topic, that we go through to be able to help as a part of the XBE Thrive system. So we've had our one in June, which was the state of supplier diversity, very informative. You can put into the chat section to be able to, we can actually get these and send them over to you if you've missed them in the past. We start talking about in August, we have, what is an XBE is one of them. This is the one we start talking about for August 26th. That will be coming up at 1 o'clock. Strong session to be able to make sure, as Jim had talked about a little bit earlier in our conversation here was, what kind of XBE, what category do you fall into? And you want to make sure that you have a clear understanding as to, who you want to be as an XBE, and we help you with that. And it's going to be a great webinar coming up to be able to discuss that. Some of the ones coming up for the future in September, the power of certification. I mean, really, when you're talking about interacting with commercial clients, you want to be able to make sure that, number one, you're certified, and it gives you a lot of, say credence, it gives you a lot of credit in this case, but that's going to be the certification. Jim, I'm sorry, did you say anything?
No, sir.
Okay, thought I heard something. And then the next one's going to be the one after that's going to be in October. That's the 10 biggest challenges for XBEs. And, as we go through this series, I mean, we keep on getting new information. And so updating these and making sure that, they're concise and to the point is one of the things we want to do. When we start talking about challenges, meetings like this and the feedback that you've been providing as we've gone through this process, we get the opportunity to be able to bring this into the webinar. So when we start talking about those biggest challenge, some of the feedback that you all give us, at the end of this one, always helpful in this case. So we'll make sure that we make it relevant to the point. In November, we have the opportunity identification is where's the opportunity for an XBE out there, and really being able to move them forward and be able to get there. So we're excited about working on that one. And then the last one for the year is the power of aligning. And so, Jim, if you want to talk, because I always leave this one to you, if you want to talk a little bit about the power of aligning with the XBEs in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ray. So the idea of not necessarily having all of the capabilities you'd want to respond to an opportunity out of corporate, understanding the value of partnering with 2 or 3 or 4 other firms, so to be able to in that collaboration have a broader scope of service and be more appealing, larger contracts with a higher profitability. That's really what we want to talk about in that December session is the power of recognizing when and when not to joint venture our partner.
Very good. All right, and so the micro topics, which really gets us into what we're doing today, this really kind of gets more into our service lines and more in depth in terms of the way that we go about it. But the topics that we have here is, technology with Chris is going to be on our side, marketing with Danya Edler, and then sales growth, which of course this particular micro topic that we're going into right now. Finding opportunities is a great one with Greg Brooks, and his level of knowledge is really going to be helpful. And I really encourage you to tune into that one if you can. Employee health plans, big one out there in terms of being able to make sure that you're attracting and keeping solid employees within your business. And Olivia Petz is going to be overseeing that. The tiered vetted bench is with our beloved on the line, Jim Bell, is going to be overseeing that one. Shared services with Jim Bell again in this particular case. Certification, I talked a little bit about that before. The president of the Diversity Consortium, Rob Travey, is going to be handling that particular session. Financial support with Moyer Donaldson. He's going to be looking at that. And then training and development with Randall Dobbins. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to make sure that, the training that you have, you're viable, you're looking at really kind of making sure that you flesh out what you're offering to the commercial clients in this particular case. And the biggest thing is see the website for our schedule for the micro webinars. All right, so getting on to the Diversity Consortium, and we start talking about what are our offerings in this case, and we talked a lot about, many different things that we could bring to the table, but let's get a little bit more closer to the vest in this case. So we start talking about the offerings, brand and logo development. As I said before, it's extremely important what footprint you're putting out there to be able to attract opportunities for you. One of the things that we work on with you is to be able to make sure that your brand resonates with people. And of course, we start talking about logo development, those types of things, making sure that, again, people understand that you're a viable business, you're a strong business, and really something that resonates with them. Digital development and management, really when we start talking about is, again, your digital footprint, what else is out there. When we start talking about, CRM systems, those types of things, we want to make sure that you're managing those systems and what else gets out there, that's part of the offering. Proposal support. This is a big deal because the worst thing that can happen is that, number one, you don't get proposals out on time because you're not efficient. But the other side of it too is to be able to make sure that the proposals that you put out there are concise, convey what you want to get across as a part of your business. And so we offer support with that to be able to make sure that, again, what you're putting out there is compelling and making sure that you're going to be the one that's going to get that particular sale. Sales support is what we talked about, largely today in terms of being able to go through. That's when we start getting into, do you have the right people in the place? Do you have a cadence? How are you going to be getting to the clients? And ultimately, how you're going to be able to win those opportunities as we go through. The marketing support really gets more into as we talk about how you're getting your brand out there, whether that's email, advertisements, what your social media footprint's going to be in that particular case, and really also getting the feedback in terms of your online presence. Do you have a positive brand image that's out there? We help you with that in terms of looking at marketing support as well. And then market research starts to get into it. Who are those target clients? Jim, I think you probably want to flesh out a little bit more in terms of the market research and some of the offerings that we have on that side.
It's a fortunate perspective that we have as we get to talk to corporations that have large numbers of opportunities, and they also have pretty good vision into the supply lines. So being able to get that information about suppliers, get the information about the product lines and geographies, just having the information to be able to really kind of quantify your probability of success. So we try to help the XBEs and the corporations better understand their marketplace.
Very good. All right, so as we get to the end of the content section, just wanted to let you know in terms of how to be able to contact us. So when you start to look at it, you can contact me directly. You can see my information on the screen. Raymond Tate again, the Vice President of Business Development for the Diversity Consortium. You have my telephone number on here, and you also have the email address to be able to drive it. One of the other things that I would put out there for you is to be able to visit our website, and our website is www.thediversityconsortium.com, and you can make that contact. Check into a lot of the things that we're about. You'll be able to see some of the other service lines, and most importantly, you'll be able to see the other webinars that we touched on a little bit earlier. So when you start talking about the Thrive webinars, which are the major topics that are on there, and then you start to dive a little bit deeper into the micro topics like we're doing today, you can get on the list to be able to take all those. We'll make sure that we get information out. If there's ones that you may have missed, we can also get those webinars over to you to be able to review and to be able to give feedback, because we always want feedback as we go forward with this. Anything else you want to cover on this, Jim? It sounds like we've got through.
Just a couple of things, Ray. So on the website, as you go to thediversityconsortium.com, if you go to the upper navigation bar, there'll be events. You pop events, and you can look at the Thrive schedules. You can register there right on site. You can also go into the micros and do the same. You'll see a description of each session, the moderators and the panelists that are involved. So hopefully that'll help people kind of see what they're looking for. There is also information about the former or the previous webinars. You can get the recordings pulled down. Also, for anybody that answered or asked or responded to surveys, we'll be sending those out. Typically, we would have a session here to be able to do a question and answer, but time constraints are keeping us from that today. But what we'll absolutely do is respond to every question, and if you're interested, just pop a thing. Please send me the question and answers in completion. We'll make sure that happens for you.
Thank you, Jim. I believe that that's going to be it for us today. As we talked about, we'd love to be able to hear back from you, and you have the various sources to be able to do that. We can get you the deck to be able to look at, and to Jim's point, if you want to be able to see the webinars and the content that was discussed on those as well, please feel free to reach out to us. So having said that, we appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you, Ray.